Oh, we're even live on YouTube. Live on Steam, live on YouTube. Oh, that's awesome. Let's see. Whoa, okay, so I think we're live everywhere. Let me see if I can get my chat up so that I can view chat everywhere. No, that's not it. Chat, there we go. Okay, so it looks like I have chat going on. So yeah, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. I think this stream I was going to talk about the game itself, but I think what I'm going to actually do is talk about game development in general. So if you have any game dev questions or anything like that, drop them in the chat. I'll be monitoring chat on well, wherever I can. And just drop them in the chat and I'll answer whatever questions that you have. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by. Sorry, I've got coffee. How's everybody doing? You guys doing okay? Having nice weather? Yeah, thanks. I saw that. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Thanks for following. Thanks for coming by. Yeah, good. Yeah, you know, it's been a crazy week. Crazy couple of weeks actually. You know, without everything going on, this year's been crazy. I've been like crazy busy. So much stuff and not enough time. There needs to be more time in the day, I think. Yeah, for real. 2020, yeah. It's rough. But we made it this far. It's almost done. We only have a couple more months. Maybe 2021 is going to be good. And we'll, you know, at the end of 2020, we'll crack a drink or something and we'll toast to the end of the year and be like, see ya. Hope you don't come back. Yeah, right. Right? Yeah. Yeah, it's been crazy. But, you know, it's been fun. You know, like just kind of working on the game stuff. Like I've been really enjoying that part. Like, you know, it's not often you get to put so much time into actually, you know, making a game, or, you know, doing something like that. So it's, you know, kind of cool to just be able to just sit back and just do it. Even if it's, you know, really stressful and gets on your nerves and, you know, annoys the hell out of you, it's still kind of cool. So yeah, I think it's good that everybody showed up. I appreciate it. And so, no, it hasn't actually. Not yet. Next year, hopefully. You know, the thing is, just kind of on Skullforge, you know, we'll just talk about Skullforge just a little bit. You know, it's one of those projects that when I started it, I had planned it all out. Like, it was going to be like that, like this, like this. We were going to put this in there. We're going to do it like that. And I laid down the design doc. And, you know, it didn't seem like that big of a project back then. But, you know, working on this one, I really, really, really realized that Skullforge is this huge, gigantic project. And so, you know, next year I hope to have it released. There will be a demo, actually, for Skullforge. After we finish Shadows of the Lost, or, you know, once that's out, then there will be a demo for Skullforge, so you can try out what we have and, you know, kind of get an idea of kind of where it was going or where it is going. But Skullforge isn't canceled or anything. It's just, you know, yeah, it's this gigantic project that didn't seem gigantic when I started it, but I haven't added anything to it. It's not like there's you see feature creep, you know, like in normal video games when you're designing things. You usually see some feature creep where you start off with this framework, and then that's what your game is. But then as you're going along in development, then you start adding things, and so this thing just balloons out, you know, just gets huge. And you know, sometimes when you get to that point, then it becomes unmanageable. But strangely enough, Skullforge has not had anything added. Like, we haven't added anything to it. It's exactly as it was when we started designing it, but you know, it's just too big of a project. But we'll get it done. We'll get it done. It's not canceled or anything like that. It's coming. So if you're waiting for Skullforge, yeah, you're gonna get that game. Don't worry about it. Like, we're not canceling it or anything. We put this much time in. I'm not going back. So yeah, we're gonna do it. But the reason why it's not the focus right now is because of money, mostly. To get it done and to get it out, it's going to take a lot more time, and so that's looking like it's going to be next year sometime. And, you know, we need something kind of small to work on right now, and so that's what we're doing. Basically, it's a smaller project that doesn't take as much time and isn't as involved. And then we're gonna build up to Skullforge, and that's why it's, you know, like it is now. So if you haven't tried Shadows of the Lost, I recommend trying it. You can try it on Steam. The demo's out, and so you can try it out. So if you haven't tried it, I recommend, you know, giving it a shot. It's definitely interesting. It's an interesting game. Pretty fun to make. Anyone have any questions? It doesn't have to be about... Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. Yeah, cool, go ahead, try it out. It's cool. It's only a demo. The ends in kind of an abrupt way, but there'll be a patch for it tonight, most likely, that will fix up a couple of things. And but, you know, you can still play through it and stuff. The arena's available. Though the arena has no balance, and so you will get your ass kicked, and I apologize. Shadows of the Lost. It's on Steam. So if you go to Steam, Yeah, it's on Steam. It's called Penny RPG. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, check it out. It's free. You know, it's free and small, so it's not like it's not even a gigabyte. It's 200 and something megabyte, if that. It's really small. But you know, we're still updating the demo, and eventually we're gonna have Shadows of the Lost as what do they call it? What's the name of it? Oh my god, early access. Yeah, it'll be on early access at some point. But I feel like I want to get the story finished before we get to that point. So at least if you get it on early access, yeah. Yeah, well, you know, it's been rough, but you know, we do what we can. It's been fun though. I mean, I've been digging working on this stuff. It's cool. Shadows of the Lost is such a interesting, different thing. You know, I you know, if you would have asked me 2 years ago if I could make a game like Shadows of the Lost, I would have been like, nope. But you know, here it is. You know, we've worked on it and got it out and stuff, and I'm happy with it. I you know, it's not big budget, but I think the story's good and the characters are interesting. Yeah, you know, it's to get the name out there and stuff, and you know, I think it's fun. It's a fun little game. It's not finished, you know, so you know, you're playing the demo. You're just playing the unfinished game, but it's more to give you an idea of what the game is about, how it works, the overall look and feel. It hasn't been through the pretty phase yet, so like we haven't done all the pretty things, you know, make it pretty. We haven't got to that point yet, but you know, it's been pretty cool. You know, I don't know, I've been digging it. It's cool, but yeah, definitely check it out. It's awesome. You know, it's like I don't know how much you know about it, but it's like a tribute to like 2D RPGs, you know, where it's got the look and feel of 2D, and it's top down. I mean, really top down, like literally from the top looking down. It's kind of got that Hotline Miami kind of feel to it, I guess. But we made a lot of things abstract. Yeah, you know, it's you know, we made everything abstract. So the main characters are abstract, the NPCs you talk to are abstract. And so yeah, you know, it's just kind of, you know, an abstract kind of thing. And then the detail is on the surroundings. So there's a lot of detail on that, but it's been cool. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, hope you try it. Hope you like it. Yeah. You know, can't win them all, but you know, we try our best. Anybody have any questions? Anything you want to know? Anything you just want to say? Like, yeah, I assume that I know this person. I don't even want to try to pronounce your name, dude. It's oh, it's Ash. Ha ha ha. Ha ha, yeah. Okay, I got it. Cool. I didn't even, yeah. Looking at it, it looked like something else. Cool. Yeah, you know, just to talk a little bit about like we there's a oh yeah, right. I mean, the way it looks, like when you first look at it, you know, it looks like it's all like a mash of letters. But then when you actually look at it, then yeah, you can say, ha ha, I got it. Yeah, so you know, talking about some of the updates that are coming to Shadows of the Lost. There will be a patch out today, at some point. Though knowing me, it might be tomorrow. But there will be a patch, and the patch basically is going to cover mostly fixing some of the things that are broken. Like I felt like combat had a lot of little issues, like the cursor would just get wonky, and stuff like that. And I went ahead and fixed those. So I played combat a ton, and I realized that the combat is totally unbalanced. But I didn't do a numbers run over it, over like the enemies that you can fight in the Fight Club. And so I didn't do a numbers run. So yeah, you will get your ass kicked, and I'm sorry. But what we did is we added two parts to make it better. One, we added so that you cannot fight harder enemies in the arena at level 1. Originally, my thought was originally my thought was the arena is, or the Fight Club is this place that you have no idea what you're going to get. And so when you go to fight at the Fight Club, things happen. Things just happen. And so, the idea sounded really good in my head, but in actual practice, it fragging sucked. So I decided that we're going to put some kind of cap on the level of enemies that you can fight in the Fight Club. So I went ahead and basically the Fight Club, you will only fight enemies that are one level above or less. So you will never fight super higher level guys that'll just destroy you at level 1. And so yeah, you don't do that, which should eliminate some of the frustration there. And the other thing is, there's one particular enemy. Now, I did build that enemy to be a pain in the ass. That's their whole point, is to be a pain in the ass. But I think that they're too much of a pain in the ass. And so I went ahead and nerfed them so that they wouldn't be such a pain in the ass. I think I nerfed them a little too hard. So in the build that's going out, they'll still be nerfed, but not as nerfed as they are right now. So right now, on my build, they're nerfed to hell. Like I nerfed them to hell. Also, there's going to be a damage pass today. I'm going to do a little bit of a damage pass and fix damage, because there's a point where your armor totally blocks pretty much all damage. And so that means that you can just go to the arena and just smash things and not have to worry about getting killed. There's no danger at all. You're going to basically smash everybody. And so I'm going to do a damage pass so that you will always take at least, or most of the time you'll take at least 1 point of damage or 2 points of damage or whatever. So that you have to, at least manage that a little bit. And then, of course, as you get higher level, you'll fight tougher things and they'll be doing more damage. And this means that go into the store and buying armor and weapons and stuff, and gearing yourself out will be an important part, especially at the beginning, so that you can deal with the Fight Club. If you want to grind for EXP and you want to go in and do that, then you can just do that. But yeah, currently, I don't know. I nerfed everything. I went in with the nerf bat and basically nerfed everything, and realized that I nerfed it just a little too hard. So I'm going to fix that. The other thing is, you can now use items outside of combat. So currently, if you get to the arena and you fight a few fights, you take some damage, and you need to heal up. Well, you can't heal up right there. You have to go back home, rest, and then you can heal up that way, because it'll heal you the full. And then you can go back to the arena or the Fight Club and you can fight again. This it's just not a long process, but it's a few steps that I feel like some people maybe they don't want to take. So being able to just use your healing potions right there, or healing items right there, then you can do that. So that is in. So in the new build, you'll be able to use your healing stim patches or your pills right there. Your nano pills, you can use them right there. And then the other thing that we added is you can escape from combat. So if you get into a fight and you're like, I can't win, then you can just escape. You can just run. And if you run in the fight club, then you take a little bit of a money hit, but not as big of a hit as if you would have just lost completely, like if you get destroyed. So that way, if you get in there and you're like, whoa, I can't do this, I'm going to get my ass kicked, I'm going to run. And then you can run, take a little bit of a money hit, and then heal up or whatever, and then try again. So that way you can at least do that. So yeah, those adjustments to combat are in, and I hope that people like them. Because yeah, the thing is I feel like I really needed to fix combat because it was really kind of broken. So I got it fixed. So the next build it should flow smoother, and you should feel like you can do stuff in it and stuff. And so yeah, give it a shot in the new build, and yeah, it'll be cool. Let me check my YouTube and see if I got people on YouTube. But yeah, it's been here we go. Okay, yeah, good. So yeah, it's been pretty cool. Like playing through the combat, like and actually, I mean, don't get me wrong. Even before today, I played through the combat a bunch, but I never really sat down and thought about it through the lens of the player. And so this time I sat down and and did it that way. Yeah. The other thing that will happen in the next build, if you've played and saved, so let's say you played the demo, you could save your game, and you played up into a certain point and you saved. Well, I changed stats. I changed how some of the stats work. I realized that there was an error somewhere, and it's something that you don't notice, and actually it won't affect you if you've played, but it will affect you when you level up beyond 10 or something. Stats get all weird at some point, and so I realized that the way I was doing it, there was a problem. So I went back and I fixed it. The only problem is anybody who saved, then your save information is basically screwed. And so what I did was, you should notice something probably changed, but you may end up with more hit points than you started, but you may end up with less. And if that's the case, then I'm sorry. It won't be much less, 2 points, maybe 3 points. It's not going to be like you lost 15 points. It's not going to be like that. But because I can't edit your save, the only thing I can do is edit the load. So once it loads up, then all of the data gets reconfigured, and then those things get fixed. But when you save again, it's fixed, and so it'll end up being fixed going forward. But if you saved on the current build and then you load, then yeah, that'll be a problem. But you probably won't notice. Like most people, I doubt they'll even notice. But yeah, there's definitely a thing. So yeah, I apologize. I'm sorry. I thought that the little algorithm that I did was going to be good, but it wasn't. So I'm sorry. But I tried to fix it by at least adjusting the stats so that on load, you don't end up with like 5 hit points. First time I tested this out, I loaded up my game and I had like 7 hit points. I was like, what the hell? How the hell have some? And then that's when I realized, oh my god, like I changed that, and that can't affect people's save. And so I was just like, oh my god. But yeah, it was fun getting it fixed, and it's all good. So yeah, once you load up, you probably won't notice anything, but there's some stuff that changed under the hood. Cool. Any questions or anything? Anybody have anything to say? Yeah. Well, the thing is, yeah, give it a shot, dude. Yeah, it's its own beast. You know, it's different than the normal stuff that you try. But you know, that wasn't necessarily the point. But you know, it's different. Yeah, you ain't lying. The thing is, just getting into a little bit of game development. The thing is about crunch. Like, that's been the big topic in kind of the industry right now, is crunch. And I'll go on the record and say that crunch sucks. It sucks a lot. And the fact that, companies get people to do it really fracking sucks. And, you could say, well, you can go get a new job, whatever. But, it's not that simple. I'm just going to go get a new job. What, jobs are just on the tree? You just walk over and go, oh, new job. Pluck. It doesn't work, okay? It's no. But when you're indie and you're working, where you're it's just you, it's so easy to put in 16-hour days. Like these days I've been working till like 4 or 5 in the morning. So I get up at around 11 or noon or something and then work until like 4 or 5 in the morning. And then, the thing is I've been just putting in a ridiculous number of hours. And so I've been crunching like crazy. Now, granted, last couple weeks ago we had the Steam Festival, and so I worked hard to get the demo out for that. I don't need to do it as much, but if we want to hit our schedule, then I have to work later and harder. And so these days I've been working like an insane number of hours. And so I decided that yesterday, I said, okay, I'm going to stop working at noon. So noon, done. Midnight, done. And so last night I was like, okay, I'm going to finish it at midnight. Like, I'm just going to stop working. But that didn't happen. I actually didn't stop working until like 1:30. And so I've really got to work on that. That's the thing I have to work on. I really have to work on not working so many hours. But it's so easy to work a bunch of hours. You know what I mean? Like, just working and working and working and working. I don't recommend that people do this. I realize that it's a problem, but I'm a workaholic. And so, I just work and work and work and work. And it's not healthy and it's not good. And so I feel like having some time off where you stop doing that, go play some Genshin Impact, that's probably a better way to do. I have. And it's when you're trying to get things done, you end up working yourself to death, basically. It's easy to keep going down that pit because you think, well, it's only 5 more minutes. What's going to happen in 5 minutes? But 5 minutes turns to an hour, which turns to 2, which turns to 3, which turns to 5. Next thing you know, you've been working for like 10 hours straight without a break. And so you have to think about what it is that you're doing and how you're doing it, and then you need to tone it down a little bit. Set caps for yourself. Like, I'm only gonna work like this, and then I'm gonna stop, and then I'm gonna take a break for 3-4 hours, and then get back into it, or take a break for the rest of the day. Go play some video games, watch a movie, or whatever, and then get back into it. But it's not that simple. And people say, well, you can just stop anytime. It's not that simple. You can't just stop anytime. Especially in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I have this system to finish. I have this thing to do. I have that thing to do. I have this thing to do. And, I have a list of things that need to happen. And so, you're looking at your list and you're going, my list is this long, and it hasn't really gotten any better. So, it's messed up. What have I been playing? I basically been playing Genshin Impact. I mean, that game is Mona. Yeah, that game's awesome. I wish the multiplayer for that was better, but it's ass, so it really isn't worth playing with other people. But it's fun. I totally digging it. And then I bought, what the heck was the name of the game? There's some game I bought recently for the Nintendo Switch, and I started playing it. Yeah. Yeah. You can't play on like your phone or something? Or yeah, I guess maybe if you don't have a PC, I guess don't have a good PC, but supposedly you can play it on your iPad. Yeah, same. Yeah, I play on the PC. Yeah, I can't run it. I mean, I'm pretty sure my iPad can run it, but I'd much rather just play it on the PC. But it's fun, man. I'm totally digging it. It's like waifu central. So if you're into the waifu games, yeah, yeah. Holy shit, dude! Excuse me, how old is your computer? The Old Republic? Holy crap, dude! I mean, that only the Old Republic. Woo! Wow. Yeah. Jeez. Wow. I mean, 4 years isn't too bad. I mean, processors back then. Oh, the Old Republic. Oh, the MMO. Oh, yeah. Wait, if you can run the Old Republic, you should be able to run Genshin Impact. That thing should be able to run on, like, pretty much anything. It's not, like, super intensive. I mean, I have mine cranked up to 11 to, like, ultra. And I only, like, my graphics card is just a 1660. I mean, it runs like a champ. You should be able to, if you could run the MMO, you should be able to run this. You should try it. Oh, it lags? Really? Huh, okay. I figured that thing would run on a toaster. It's not, I mean, if it runs on your phone, it should be able to run on pretty much anything. Well, I mean, if you tried it and it didn't work, then I guess there's not much you can do about it. Yeah, but I mean, it runs fine on my computer, but I don't have the beefiest thing, but it runs fine. Like, I haven't had any problems, no crashes or anything. It's like as soon as I boot it up, it's buttery smooth, 60 frames. Yeah, it's top notch. Yeah, but to be honest, I'm waiting for the Nintendo Switch version of it. Once the Nintendo Switch version comes out, then I'm gonna switch to playing that one. Mainly so I can play it on my TV. I have this big old huge TV, and I just love playing anything on that. Like Warframe on that thing is wow, it's awesome. I recommend everybody get a big TV. Playing video games on a big old TV is win. Oh yeah. It's coming. Well, I think the only thing that's left is Nintendo Switch. It's going to be on the Nintendo Switch, but right now it's mobile. So iPhone, Android, PC, PS4, and then Nintendo Switch is coming later. So if you have a PS4, you can play it there. Yeah, I don't know why they're not doing the Xbox version. It's funny too when you look at their Twitter feed. When you go and take a look at their Twitter stuff, it's amazing. Like how many people are like, bring it to Xbox, or where's the Nintendo Switch version? That kind of thing. I don't know what it is, but maybe they think, well, nobody uses an Xbox in China, so we don't care. But I hope it comes to everything. I mean, everybody should be able to play. The only thing is, I don't necessarily recommend playing on the PS4 because if I remember correctly, the PS4 version is not connected to everybody else. So if you play mobile or you play PC, then you can do, I think it's account transfer, or it's cross account. So if you load up on mobile, so if I load it on my mobile account, I should just be able to play my PC game or use my PC stuff. And so that's like awesome. Being able to play anywhere, you don't have to, especially since it's a gacha. You got your good characters, and so you don't want to fragging re-roll. Screw that. So yeah, being able to just use your characters, but the PS4 version is totally cut off. But I'm hoping that the Nintendo Switch version is right there with everybody else, so that you can just boot up. I could have my PC data and then just roll right into it, so I don't have to re-roll or anything like that. But we'll see. We'll see how it is. They haven't talked about the Nintendo Switch version at all, so who the frag knows. But I kind of feel like they have some kind of exclusive deal with Sony going on right now, and so they can't really talk about the Nintendo Switch version. So once whatever that exclusivity thing they have going on, once that's done, then they'll be able to talk about other versions of the game. But right now, they haven't talked about any of that stuff, which is a little frustrating, but it is what it is. It's how it is. But yeah, I hope it comes to Xbox. It'd be kind of cool. I'm definitely of a mind that unless there's some reason why things have to be exclusive, I just say put it on everything. Just let everybody play. I wish we had more what's the word? Funds and stuff. More people, more manpower in order to port things to more things. Like I would love to put Shadows of the Lost on Nintendo Switch, Xbox. Screw Sony. I'm not putting it on Sony. So I'm sorry if anybody's a big Sony fan. That's not me. But the thing is, I want to put it on more platforms. And so, it's same thing with Skullforge. I would love to put Skullforge on more platforms, but porting takes a lot of time, and so it's not like you can just go and poof, port for some platform. I take that back. It's not quite true. Because we use Unity, the PC port is the Mac version. It's literally the Mac version. Yeah, no mobile for me, yeah. And mainly because I don't want to rewrite my UI to work with touchscreen stuff. I'm not doing that. That's, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if somebody else wants to do it, cool. But it's not going to be me. I hate messing around with UI in the first place. And I don't want to get in with touch stuff. Like, I just, yeah, I don't want to mess around with that. But if somebody else does it, like if somebody comes to me and says, hey, Garf, I want to port Shadows of the Lost to iPhone. I'm okay with that. If you want to port it, cool. You know, you want to get in there and mess around with all of the UI stuff, go for it, man. I'm not gonna, I'll totally endorse somebody who wants to do that. Cool. But me personally, no. Touch stuff, no. The thing is, I play one of the few mobile games that I play is called Dragalia Lost, and I like that game, but I really wish it wasn't on mobile. There's something about playing these games without an actual controller in my hand. I want a controller. I want to be able to move. Like, one of the problems I have a lot is I'm playing the game, I'm trying to dodge something, and I just want to move my guy over to the left. But the problem is, the way the touch interface goes, it's basically wherever your thumb is, and you drag, and then your guy moves in that direction. But sometimes it's finicky, and it doesn't work. And so I end up taking some hits, and I'm just like, ah! It's not because I was bad. It's not because I screwed up. It's because the mobile, there aren't any buttons. So you're just tap, 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 kind of thing. And I just think that experience is just not something that I personally am into. But yeah, if people love to play games that way, cool. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything bad about people who enjoy playing, because everybody enjoys playing games in different ways. So if you like that, great. So cool. But yeah, if somebody came to me and said, "Gar, please port, this, we'll port it," go for it. I'll give you the code. You do the porting. My code's modular, so it shouldn't be that hard. Just get in there and do all the interface you need for that. I mean, like, the thing is, it would be interesting to put Shadows of the Lost on Apple's, what is it, their Apple Arcade? I mean, it would be kind of interesting to have that. I mean, I think I could do a port for that. But Apple generally requires touch interface. But if I did it where it was Apple TV only and you had to use a controller, I probably could do it. I probably could do it. We'll see. Maybe in the future when we get around to, once it's done, like we're finished, everything is laid out, then I'll go back and I'll look and see where we can port, and then we'll do ports. We'll port it to wherever. But yeah, the thing is, I remember the other game I bought. It was, if you guys ever watched Danmachi, I bought the Danmachi game. What's gonna happen? Honestly, I'm not sure how much I should say here, but all right. So my opinion on this is that I think Epic is going to lose. I say that because the thing is, if you are making something and you explain what you're doing in the beginning, this is what you're buying into. I mean, you're upfront about what it is that people are getting and how they're doing the thing, and you have rules. So if you want to be in my thing, then you got to follow my rules. And I don't think Apple's in the wrong on this one. It's like if you run a store and some guy comes in who, let's say, Facebook says, "I want you to sell my product." and you say, I'm not going to sell your product unless you have this thing and that thing and that thing. And if you do those things, then I'll put your product on my shelf. And if they say, well, we don't want to follow those rules, but you're going to have to sell my stuff anyway, then you'd be, naturally you'd be pissed off, because it's your store. You should be able to sell things on your store the way you want, because it's your store. And so, if somebody came and told you how you're supposed to run your store, then you'd be naturally upset about it. And so if you want to be in somebody's store and if you want to be part of that, then you got to follow the rules. And the idea that Apple has some kind of monopoly is not true, especially considering Android is way bigger than iOS is. The only problem is Android folks can't get people to buy software. So at least Apple, they've been able to convince people to buy software on their store. And so you can't get mad at them just because they convinced, they were able to effectively tell their users, hey, our store is safe. You can buy whatever. It's all good. And then you're like, oh, we want a piece of that pie. I mean, you can't come in after and say, we want a piece of your pie, so, because you guys were effective doing that, we want a piece of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's something wrong about that. But there are a lot of people who say, well, they're a big, gigantic company. But I think it doesn't matter what the size is. It doesn't matter whether they're teeny. It doesn't matter whether they're huge. The thing is if it's your store, and you explain to customers what they're going to get, you explain to developers how it's going to work, then they follow the instructions in order to be on your store. And as long as they follow the instructions, it's all good. But the moment they're trying to bully you into doing whatever, I just think that's just not good. And if Apple loses, then this will affect everybody. It'll affect Nintendo, it'll affect Microsoft, it'll affect Sony, and anybody else who has a walled garden type place. That means that you cannot control what happens on your store. And that just should not happen. And that means that, I know there's some people who are like, well, let's let it burn, like let it all fall. But personally, you should be able to control what happens in your store. Period. But the moment you can't, then that means that people can just run, it's the Wild West. People can do whatever the hell they want. And I just don't think that that's a good thing. I think having the option that if you want to have a walled garden and people buy into it, then they should be able to. And if they don't, then they have other options. You can go do something else. But, I don't know. It's a complicated thing, but I don't think Epic is going to win. I don't think they're going to win. I think that ultimately, especially reading like what the judge said and stuff, I just don't think that's going to happen. So we'll see. But yeah, right now I'm not rooting for Epic. I think Epic's trying to bully people into doing what they want. And I just think that just because you made Fortnite and you have $1 bazillion, that shouldn't give you license to bully people to do whatever it is that you want them to do. That I just think. And then they're trying to use, Apple's this big, gigantic company. They don't give a damn about you, which is true. But they're trying to use that as leverage to say that they're right. Big bad Apple is stopping us from doing whatever. It's like, no, I agree with the judge. And the judge said, this whole situation is of your own creation. When talking to Epic, like, you guys did this. It's not like Apple did this to you. You created this. And therefore, you have to deal with the consequences of that. I don't agree with Apple blocking Epic people using Unreal Engine. I think you're talking about innocent bystanders who didn't have anything to do with this, and you're talking about people's livelihood. Like, you're working on your game, and all of a sudden you can't get access to update tools for the engine that you're using for your game. Well, you have nothing to do with that. Don't care about what's going on with Epic. Don't care about what's going on with Apple. You're just trying to finish your game. It's already tough enough to make a game. And then all of a sudden you're going to be like, well, sorry, you can't get any, you can't get any access on oh my God, Apple's stuff. Like, so you're basically out. And that just can't happen. It just can't happen. So yeah, I'm no, that can't happen. So I think Apple's wrong on that. They didn't have anything to do with it, and yeah, it sucks. They're gonna have to pay Epic, but you can't do anything about it after the fact. In this case, there's just too many innocent bystanders that are affected by this, and it just should not happen. So yeah, I think that's pretty much my thought about it. But yeah, I'm not rooting for anybody really, but I don't think Epic's gonna win. But I guess we'll see. It's been a weird year, so never really know. But I don't know. The judge on the case, she's awesome. Yeah, the judge, if you read her statements and stuff, like she's awesome. She's awesome. So I think that she's well educated on what's going on. And one of the things that you tend to think about with judges and those kind of guys is that they don't have any clue like what's going on. But it's good to see that she has a very clear understanding of what's going on. So anyway, yeah, it's cool. So yeah. What about you? What do you think is going to happen? What do you guys think is going to happen? I mean, personally, I just want people to... Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I agree. I don't expect it to get settled until sometime next year. And even then, I think somebody's going to appeal. Because if Apple loses, I think they're going to appeal. And then if Epic loses, they might appeal too. So, this thing could be dragging out for a couple of years. I hope it doesn't, but these court cases, a lot of time they go on a long time. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping for the best. I just think that we need to let walled gardens exist. They need to exist, or should be able to exist. But yeah, it's been interesting, like looking at things in the game industry. There's just a lot of like weird stuff going on, and I should probably make a little thing about like just the game industry in general, like kind of where the whole thing is going. Which does remind me, one of the things I saw last night that I thought was really interesting is John Linneman, the guy from Digital Foundry. He posted something I thought was really interesting, where he was talking about people who compare a game made by 2 people to a game made by hundreds of people. And he is like, people need to stop doing this, because it's hard enough to make a game. But, when you're comparing a game made by, like, 2 people to God of War, that had hundreds of people working on it, that's not good. People need to understand that to make a game and to get it released is extremely difficult. And so, people think, especially like my aunt, for example. She's like, it's so easy to make a game. Some guy in his basement made a game and released it. It's like, do you know how hard it is to actually make a game, to make a good game. I mean, anybody can slap together some stuff like what was that game on the Wii U? I think it was called Meme Run, and the guy just slapped together some crap and put it out. And that's, the thing is, if people want to buy that, fine. Like I am not saying that people shouldn't buy that kind of stuff. If you want to buy it for a yuck, if you just liked it, fine, that's cool. But the guy basically just slapped together some stuff and put it out. And yeah, he probably made it in a few weeks. But, the thing is, if you want to make something good and you want to make something memorable, that stuff doesn't just happen in 5 minutes. It takes a lot of work. And actually get a game finished and out is ridiculously hard. And I don't think that people really understand like how much work goes into making the games that you play. Especially when people, you get it, you play it for like 10 minutes, you beat it, and you move on and go, wow, that was great. But to make that game that you finished in 10 minutes took like 6 months and a crap ton of elbow grease in order to actually make. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't look at the quality of the game and then judge whether or not they want to buy. That's not what I'm saying. But I think that one thing that we do need to take into consideration is the comparison between a game that was made with only a couple of people, like they only have a certain amount of resources, they can only do what they can, versus a game made by Activision like Call of Duty. Like, I'm not making Call of Duty. I'm never making Call of Duty. I don't have the resources. I don't have the manpower. As you can see, I this is my studio right here. Like, this is it. And I don't have the resources to make Call of Duty. And anybody who saw anything that we made and decided that they wanted to take a look at that and then compare that to Call of Duty, we lose like 100% of the time. Because I can't compete with them. And so I think his comment was good in that it's something that people just need to take into consideration. Games are made on the indie level. We just don't have the resources and we don't have the money to be making games like Call of Duty. And that's not to say that you can't make games, that look nice. With only a couple of people, but even then, it depends on your talent. It depends on your how much time you have. It depends on how much money. Like if you have 2 people, yet you've got like $2 million to spend, then you could contract out like all pieces of it. Like you can contract out the art, you can contract out, some coding. You can. I mean, you have money, you have resources. You can pay to throw money at a problem. But if your budget, like our budget is what, a couple $100 maybe, I don't have the money to be throwing at something like that. Like I can't do that. I don't have the budget. And so but yet it still shouldn't stop me from being able to make something that's fun. And I think that's the key. Is that you don't necessarily need $1 million and a staff of like 100 people in order to make something fun. If you look at Undertale or something like that, where they only had 1 or 2 people, a couple people that made that game, that's impressive. We should be impressed, and that should not be compared to Call of Duty. Or God of War, or The Last of Us, or any of that stuff. Like, we can't make that. We're never going to make that. And I think that it's unfair to immediately go to that. And crowdfunding is it's touchy and it's difficult. Because you run into the same problem that you run into with... Okay, so let's take, for example, When we first started Skullforge, okay, history lesson. Okay, so when we first started Skullforge, our first thought was Kickstarter. Like, we're gonna make a Kickstarter, we're gonna put it up there, we're gonna start with like a general idea of what our game is gonna do, what it's gonna look like, how much we're gonna need, and all that stuff. Like, we put it together and we put it out there, and I talked about what it was, and people immediately went, man, that looks like crap. There are only two of us. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's only two of us. And yes, it's a 3D game. Okay, yeah. Like, we didn't use 2D art. Like, we decided that we wanted to go 3D. But that wasn't good enough, because the moment we put it out there, people immediately started comparing it to all these other 3D games that are out there that obviously look better than what we put together. I mean, obviously, there's only two people. So yeah, we were never gonna compete. So that part was immediately a negative, and especially since we didn't pick like some really extreme art style. Like, we didn't like. I originally I wanted to do cell shading, and I wanted to do, but like, I didn't think it looked right with what we had, so like I didn't do it. And so, like, I went looking around, like, when our Kickstarter was going on, and I went looking around, I read some forums, I did some interviews, I talked to some people, but always it was, man, that game, yeah, I don't think it looks that good. And it was mainly just the look of it, not the gameplay. Nobody ever commented on the gameplay of it. They only talked about what it looked like. Yeah, okay, so we can't compete with Call of Duty, or Assassin's Creed or any of that stuff. Yeah, we'll never look that good. And so if you ever wonder why so many indies don't do 3D games, that's one of the reasons, is because the moment you do a 3D game, like, people automatically will compare you to all this other stuff. Because, yeah, there are plenty of other things that look better. And we'll never compete with that. So yeah, I wanted to do crowdfunding, but we tried the crowdfunding thing and it didn't work. So I just felt like I felt like at that point, yeah, I mean it is, but the thing is, at that point it turns into, I'm just gonna put it out there and let people decide. Like, that's why we decided we're going to do a demo so people can play it and then decide. Because, yeah, okay, you're looking at it, it doesn't look like X game or Y game. Okay, yeah, it doesn't look like Diablo. It's not that pretty. I get it. I understand. But at the same time, I think it's one of those things that you need to play, and then you can go, okay, well, I played it and I liked it. Now I can invest. And so I think that's going to be the thing. And so we'll have a demo for Skullforge. And that's why we're going to do it, because, yes, we can't make it look as good as something else, but at least people will be able to play it. And then once you can play, then you'll know what we were trying to accomplish and what we're doing. And at that point, if you want to throw some money our way, then yeah, we'll take it. And so, it's just one of those things that you're always up against the wall, especially as indie and especially doing 3D stuff. And it's sad, it's a bummer, and I wish it wasn't that way, but that's the reality of things. And I just wish that wasn't the case. And it's fine. It's fine. I mean, I guess I should be encouraged that when we put it up for Steam Greenlight, like back when they were actually doing Steam Greenlight, we actually did get greenlit. Well, I mean, of course, but but in the defense of players, and maybe I'm being a little soft on them, but in the defense of players, when you're looking at something, like if you're looking through a website and you're looking at pictures of things that are to come, you don't know that game's made by two people. You don't know the history behind that game. You have no idea about the company that made it. You don't know any of that. All you're looking at is a picture. And that picture is what's going to sway you initially as to whether you want more or not. And so, yeah, I admit, that's a thing. Like, but how do you, but the problem for us is, how do you make the picture look good so that the player will go, you know what, that's interesting. Maybe I will take a look. And then once you dive into the history and who made it, then you can decide, oh, holy crap, that game is made by 2 people. Then you can be impressed. But that part comes later. The part that you get first is, I'm looking at a picture, and this picture is telling me about that product. And so, it's one of those things that you just got to deal with. If you're marketing anything to anybody, that's why they always try to go for the prettiest thing first, because that's the thing that people are going to judge when they first look at it. So, if we take into consideration, like, well, I mean, yeah, of course. But, it's the initial, when you're looking through websites and pictures and stuff, it's that picture that's going to draw you to whatever that thing is. And then you can find out more about it once you click on it. But that is, I think we're all guilty of that, right? I mean, when we're looking through Steam and you're going through the Steam list and you're just looking at all the games that are there, because there's like a bazillion of them. I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, that picture's amazing. Oh yeah. That picture's amazing. Yeah, Melee did such an awesome job. We contracted that out. The lady who did it, she gave us such an amazing deal on it. And I am eternally thankful to her for doing that. But that picture is striking, and it's really well done. I wish we could do that all the time, but we can't. So, like, I wanted to contract out our picture for the cover for Shadows of the Lost, but we couldn't afford it. So my wife did it, and I think she did a great job. And so, yeah, that one is one that we did, in-house. So, yeah. But the Skullforge one, I thought, needed something very, very specific. And so, yeah. But people comment on the Skullforge picture all the time. It looks great. And, when I get into setting up the Steam page for Skullforge, like, I'll probably use it because I'm pretty sure. Well, I mean, no, probably it will be our little icon for the game and stuff. But yeah, the thing is, it's just the things you got to deal with when you're an indie and you're trying to compete, and there's just a bazillion products out there for people to buy. What makes yours different than somebody else's, and so first impressions are important. And then people can read from there. And so, it's how it is. You just hope for the best. That's all you can do, really. But, we try. We try to do what we can. But, it's only what you can do. Fantasy. Hey, how's it going, dude? Anybody have any questions about anything? I'm pretty much talking about whatever. So yeah, this is general stream. We're just talking about whatever. Though, I'm into the game dev, but no, it's all good, dude. I mean, hey, it's all good. You made it. That's something. Yeah, there's going to be a new build coming out tonight. So, well, hopefully tonight. So, yeah, give it a shot. Yeah, right? Especially you, dude. You're always up to like, what, 4 or 5 in the morning? It's always funny seeing like your comments on Discord. And it's funny because, you're in a different time zone than I'm in. And if you're still up, then it's definitely got to be late for you. Yeah, hey, man, hey, you have the same problem I have. I'm a night owl, man. I'll admit. There's something about being up at like 3 in the morning where it's dark and quiet. I don't know, man. That's the kind of place that I kind of thrive in. Being up and it's like, 3 in the morning. It's quiet. Wife's sleeping. It's like, wow, this is good. I like it. It's quiet. It's calm. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's one of those things that when I was a kid, I remember, like, my mom, she would say, go to bed. Like, go to bed. And it'd be like 11, 11 night or 10:30, something like that. And I would sneak up. And, the funny thing is my grandfather, he gave me this little black and white TV. And this is, what, early 80s? And so my grandfather gave me this little black and white TV. And I would stay up in the middle of the night. I turned the volume like all the way down. And I'd cover the top of the TV with a blanket so that the light wouldn't show underneath the door. And I would just sit back and watch TV in the middle of the night. There was one channel that we had that they would play movies like late at night. Normally, back in the old days, I don't know about TV these days, but back in the old days, at around maybe 2 o'clock at 2 a.m., they would do the service thing where the channel would go off and you just see the bars with the black line on the bottom and the whole nine. Like the channel would just go off. And so I would, but there was one channel that did not go off, and they play old movies like all the way through. So like I couldn't sleep, so I would just throw the cover over the TV, and I'd turn the volume all the way down, and then I'd just sit there and watch movies or something like in the wee hours of the night. And I think that's where my, night owl kind of, thing came from. There was just something about the quiet, how quiet it was, like no sisters running around, making a bunch of noise. It was just quiet, calm, relaxing. I just always loved, like, the dead of night, once it was, 3 in the morning or whatever. It was awesome. So, a matter of fact, when I was in high school, graduated from high school, college, there's a friend of mine. He used to stay over at my house, my apartment, and we would stay up like all fragging night, like just sitting around chatting and playing video games and watching movies. He's a big movie guy, and oh my God, man, he could just stay up all night long, watch movies. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure he still does. I don't think that that's ever changed. I think he still does that. And so, we would just stay up all night long, playing games and stuff. And so, I've always been, into the let's stay up late and let's do some stuff, kind of thing. And so, working to the wee hours of the night also feeds into that same thought, like that same mentality of staying up till like whenever, working on stuff. It's dangerous. It's bad. I should stop doing it, but, here I am, 2020, still doing it. Yeah. Sorry, I went off on a little history tour. Sorry. Oh yeah, sure, definitely. Oh yeah, no, I agree, dude. Like staying up late, like these days, like in order to break the monotony, what I've been doing is staying up late and playing um, Genshin Impact. Its day switches at 2 a.m. So usually what I'll do is work, and then at around 2-ish, go over to the PC, turn on Genshin Impact, play, do my dailies, because they have these daily things you can do. Do my dailies, and then, maybe a couple of other things, and then turn that off, come back over, do whatever I got to do, and then around 5:30 or so, 6, it's getting late. Once I start seeing the light, the early sunlight coming in through the window, yeah. Yeah, I know, man. I mean, throw the blanket over the TV and then just sit underneath it and like watch. And especially since like if you turn the sound all the way down, you can contain all that sound in the little blanket, and so you can watch stuff without your mom knowing that you're. I know my mom's not watching this, so, but like you can watch things without your mom knowing that you're actually doing it. Hell yeah, man! Seriously. Yeah. I still do that, actually. I stay up, like, As a matter of fact, that's probably one of the bad habits that I have, is that I like reading manga on my iPad. So when I get in bed, so let's say, like, I'm done, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to bed. And so I go and lay down, and then I whip out my iPad, and I start reading manga. So I actually don't generally get to sleep until like 7 or so, 6:30. I have like a bazillion series that I'm reading, and so like I'll just whip out my iPad, like read some manga, and then like, woo, okay, I'm all caught up, and then oh, jeez. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh yeah, I fragging love it, man. You guys have it good, like these days. Like I have tablets and stuff. You can read manga and stuff like that. Like I used to read comic books because we didn't have back then. We didn't have tablets and stuff, and so I used to read comic books like. Oh yeah, right. I mean, yeah. Hey, do you read books on your tablet or something or phone? Or do you actually still read like actual paper books? Yeah, iPad. Yeah, that's what I do. iPad. Matter of fact, I still read comics, but I read comics on my iPad. I don't know if you guys read Marvel comics, but I will say Marvel Unlimited, fragging amazing. I mean, it's amazing. I could go back and read all those old, like, X-Men comics and stuff from like, forever ago. Like, I was on this Doctor Strange kick, and so I was, like, reading tons of Doctor Strange comics from, like, way back in the day, because they've got, like, a ton. It's, like, $15 a month, which is kind of steep, but the amount of comics I've read, like, that way, woo! I mean, I have a ton of regular comics too, like in the box. Like I've got paper comics, like a bunch, like a whole bunch. But these days, I tend to read them on my iPad and stuff. That's the best way to do it, I think. Like, just whip out your iPad like so, and then be like, wow, read. It's great. Yeah, I wonder if people still read paper books. Like, do you guys like read? Do any of you guys still read paper books? Paper books and comics and stuff like that. Cause I mean, I still like I still get manga in paper if I can, but it's different than being in Japan. Like when we're in Japan, you can just go to Book Off and just get comics, and they're like 100 yen or 150 yen or something like that, cheap. And so you can just buy a bunch for cheap, and then the only problem is I had a whole bunch. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm. Warhammer? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, the thing is, I haven't really been reading or buying a lot of manga because it's so expensive to ship from Amazon to here. Yeah, I mean that's a good time. You just put the book in your in your bag, and then while you're on a plane or train or something, you can whip out your book and read. Yeah, I wonder how many people still read paper books. I mean, these days with what is it, Kindle, the Kindle app and stuff, it's a lot easier just to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna whip out my Kindle thing and it's a lot easier. I mean, the thing is like I haven't bought a paper book in years. I mean, it's been years since I've purchased an actual paper book. And the thing is, the only paper book series that I collect now are Stephen Bruce books. I don't know what it is. I fraggin' love the cover of them. I don't know what it is about it, but he just does a good job on his covers, and I just love having the actual paper book like on the shelf. There's something cool about that. Oh, and then I still buy Spawn comics when I can. Oh yeah, yeah. No, I can understand that. I bought I wanted to read the Witcher like after the Witcher TV series came out, and I own the physical books. Like I have the actual paperback books for the Witcher. I bought them years ago, read them years ago, but I wanted to read them again, and so I went ahead and bought them on Apple Books. And yeah, I don't know. I for some reason I could have just cracked open the regular paperback and read it, but for some reason I went and bought the digital book and read that. I guess it's just easier to have like everything right there, like on your iPad and stuff. Like just everything right there. Whenever you want to read it, you can just pull it out and just start reading. I think that's a lot simpler, easier. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. But comics that way, oh my god, like manga really, they need to get with the times, man. They need to go 100% digital on their stuff. Like reading manga, like laying in the bed and then whipping out the manga because manga chapters are usually pretty short. They're only like what, 7-8 pages. I mean, sometimes they get up to like 15, 16, but generally you're only looking like anywhere between 4 and like 18 pages. So you can usually get through them really fragging quick. So, if you have them digital, you can just like whip them up, read them real quick, and then be done. Move on to the next thing. So you can, get through things a lot faster. And I just think that that's one of the things that they need to do. They need to embrace digital. Embrace it. Yeah, it's been reading that way is so awesome. I dig it. Any of you guys playing anything interesting these days? Like we were talking earlier, like I was talking about, basically these days I just been playing Genshin Impact for the most part, and I got a couple mobile things. Dragalia Lost, still playing through that stuff. Nothing amazing. mainly between game development and all the other stuff. There just isn't a lot of time in the day to spend playing. Of course, these days games require you or want you to just spend all your time with them. Time's limited. Like, I don't have all day, so I don't want to be messing around with stuff. So it's like one of the thoughts when I was thinking about Shadows of the Lost, like when I was first doing the navigation system, and I was telling Fantasy about this. Like when I was first doing the navigation system, I originally had it where when you pulled it up, the car taxi would show up, and then you'd walk and get in the taxi, and then the taxi would take off, and then that would be how you would get around. But I realized that it's slow. The taxi comes in, you walk over, you get in, and then the taxi takes off. That process is long, and so I thought, I should respect people's time. They just want to do what they got to do and get out. And so I made the navigation system now is you pull up the navigation window, and then you just go to where you got to go, you click it, and then poof, there you go. Done. No waiting for anything, no trying to go anywhere. You just go where you got to go. I think that system is simpler, and it just makes it a lot easier for the player to just go, you know what, I just want to go over there. I don't want a whole lot of fanfare. I just want to get over there and do what I got to do. And so, the general mentality behind this game is, I try to make everything as quick and as easy as I can. You want to get in, do what you got to do, and get out. Like, the game just shouldn't bite you, like some games just bite you constantly. They're just always biting you, and you're just like, stop biting me, oh my god. And so I just feel like games just shouldn't bite you. There's a time to bite you, but if you're just trying to navigate and you're just trying to get from point A to point B, or save your game, or load your game, or that kind of stuff, people just want to get in, get what they gotta get, and get out. They don't want to be messing around with a bunch of stuff. And so, I tried to make it, you may find that the game is a little too fast. Like, I had somebody say it was too fast. I get it. It is. It is a little fast. It's, it's made so that you don't waste time getting to do the thing that you want to do. You jump in, you do what you got to do, you get out. Simple. Easy. Sometimes game developers put these kind of slow down things to kind of slow things down. But I'm not slowing you down, man. You can just get in there and do what you got to do and get out. I'm not trying to make it, make a game that's, bogging you down. Maybe not everybody agrees with that, but that's my philosophy when it comes to that kind of thing. I just don't think that games should bite you all that much. The moment they start biting you, people go, ooh, you just don't need that. You don't need that in your life. Times are hard. We don't want to, games just shouldn't do that. So that's one of the reasons I can't play some, Fantasy, you're playing a Spelunky. Just listen to you, talk about that, man. I just feel like, man, that's not a game that I can play, man. I can't, game kicking me every time. I don't want games to be kicking me constantly. But, that's the thing. I was gonna I probably will do a video about this. How much pushback should a game give you, when you're playing? As developers, and I tell people this all the time, if you want to kill the player and you want to make things hard for the player, it's really, really easy. You don't know how easy it is to actually make the player's life difficult. You can do it without even trying. And so game development is about how to balance making the players like miserable, but making it fun at the same time. You know, you're trying to balance that, and it's hard. Yeah, you know, the thing is, that game just, I don't want to be kicked that often. You know, when you're playing a game, you don't want to be kicked that often. I guess some people do like to get kicked that often, and that's cool. I mean, but there are games for them, and so yeah, that's cool. I don't design my games to kick the player that often. Like I don't think players enjoy. Well, most players. I don't think most players just like getting kicked that often, and so I try not to kick them if we don't have to, and so I want to remove barriers so that you can just jump in and play and just enjoy yourself, and then put it down and then go, wow, that was kind of fun, instead of holy crap, my butt hurts because they kicked me a bunch of times. I don't think that that's fun, and there are some people who design their games to be punishing and obtuse, and I just don't. I'm not into that. If you play any of our games, whether it's Skullforge, whether it's Shadows, whether it's whatever we do in the future, our goal is never, ever, ever, ever to kick the player quite like that. Like I just want people to have fun, enjoy it, get a good story out of it, and then go, yeah, that was awesome at the end. You walk away from it going, damn, that was cool. That's the ultimate goal of what we do. And so, yeah, maybe not everybody gets that. That's cool. I'm okay with that. But, I don't want to make the player's life miserable. So the goal is always remove barriers to make things easy for the player. Okay. All right. I will say that there's one piece to that. And that is, I don't mind, I don't want to hold the player's hand either. I think that's one other thing that I want to point out. And that can lead to some level of the game biting you. And trapping you, like these little traps, where the player gets trapped, or falls into a trap. And I understand that, but I don't want to hold the player's hand. I think players should be at least a little bit responsible for how they interact with things. They should be willing to experiment a little. They should be willing to mess around with things a little, and come to terms with what they're playing with. And I feel like games these days do a lot of signposting. Hey, there's a thing over here. Go over there and touch it. And so, I don't want the player to. I don't want to do that. I want the player to experiment and try things and mess around with stuff. I mean, yeah, that's true. But the one thing about LucasArts games and games of that era, I felt like one of the problems that they fall into is they have these obscure puzzles that you're like, I never would have thought of putting the ball in the jar and giving the jar to the giant who basically smashes it, and then that creates a rift in time. You go through the rift, and that moves the story along. Like, who thinks of that kind of stuff? Nobody thinks of that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I don't want that kind of thing, where, you're just making some stuff up. I mean, you know what I mean. We do a lot of making things up. That's what we do. But, the thing is, who's thinking about taking the ball and put it in the jar to give to the giant? I mean, who's thinking about that? Like, nobody's thinking about that. And so, like, I felt like those games, you get stuck, like, constantly. But they're built on getting stuck so that you'll call the helpline and get help. Back then they had these 900 numbers you call and you get help. Or you buy the strategy guide or the guide that I don't know if I don't think they still make them, but back then they had these books that you use this yellow marker, and then you want to know what the hint is. So it would say, how do I get past whatever? And then you take the yellow marker and you scribble over the thing, and it would reveal the answer, like what you would need to do. But it was totally on you. But you'd buy these things so that you could figure out what to do, because you get stuck, and you were gonna get stuck. They were made so that you're gonna get stuck. The question is, how do you get unstuck? There was no internet back then, so you had to call the helpline or whatever. I would imagine that's why that's how GameFAQs came to be. Like, how do you get unstuck in a game? Because back then you needed some kind of guide or something, because you couldn't get through. You would get stuck constantly. And so, I don't want people to get stuck. People are going to get stuck because, not everybody's on the same level of puzzle solving. But at the same time, you want players to experiment a little bit. You want them to get out there and do stuff. If you're always coddling them, you're like, oh, come here, player. Oh, it's okay. Here, let me help you out, man. Here's a hint. You know what I'm saying? I get that you're trying to remove some of the friction and some of the game biting you a little bit, but I think there's a balance. The game should bite you sometimes, but not all the time. And it depends on what and where you're getting bitten. And so if that's the thing, then you've got to balance what that is. So otherwise, people can enjoy themselves, and you don't want them to you don't want people to get lazy and complacent because they know you're going to give them the answer. I'm not going to give you the answer. I'm going to be honest. I'm not giving you the answer. And especially true for Skullforge, because Skullforge is going to require you to really experiment, and really play with stuff. Because if you don't, you're going to be lost, and you're going to be like, what the hell am I doing? You're going to have to whip out your paper and pen and try to figure out how things are going and stuff. It does not give you tips and hints and stuff. But I want people to be able to go online to friends and family and, Discord or whatever, to compare notes with other people. For Shadows of the Lost, it's not really a thing, because it's fairly linear. It's really hard to get stuck in that game, I think. But for Skullforge, that's a whole different thing. I expect people to be stuck and stuck often. But the game you don't get stuck in the normal sense. You probably get stuck by thinking about what to do. How do I deal with that situation? There are 3 ways to do it. Which way do you choose? Well, that's totally up to you. But if you want to, talk shop with somebody else, then you can. So let's take one of the early parts of Skullforge. In one of the early parts, you go into this. There's a guy who's like, "Hey, man, I need you to help me, and I'll help you. So you scratch my back, and I'll scratch yours." So he says, "Hey, man, I want you to go over to find my brother, because my brother is gone." And at that point, as a player, you can either follow his instructions. So he said, go visit that guy, and you can go talk to them and do whatever. You can be straightforward about it. Or you can be like, I don't trust that dude at all, so I'm going to go do my own investigation. I'm going to find out. Or you can find out, you can go follow what that guy told you to do, and then decide, well, you know what? Let me check this other thing out over here. And then do that, and then decide what you want to do about it. How you handle that situation is totally up to you. So you should not get lost or stuck. But getting stuck in this case would be, do I help the guy? Do I follow what he said? Do I do my own thing? Is it okay for me to do my own thing? And so, people, I can understand people would have a certain amount of, I'm scared to commit because I don't want to screw my game up. You know what I mean? Like, I get that. But Skullforge will have a lot of that kind of thing. And so, but the game doesn't help you. The game doesn't say, hey man, here's a hint. Go help the guy. Like it doesn't do that. So, you have to figure out what you're going to do and how you're going to deal with it. And how you deal with it is how you deal with it. Because the other thing that I removed are random rolls. So there are no random rolls. You can't rely on, like, if you guys played D&D or D&D or what's the other game? Mass Effect or something like that. And you guys ever played any of them? I assume that a lot of people probably have played one of them. But if you've played D&D or any of those, usually when you go into a situation and you need, or you're trying to do something, usually there's a die roll involved. So let's say you have a high charisma, which gives you a 50% chance of persuasion. So you walk into the place, there's some die rolling, bang, and that will determine the outcome of what you're trying to do. Now, in my own D&D campaigns, I eliminated the die roll for that because I said it's up to the player to actually convince me that this is what they want to do. Now, some people said, well, Garth, I'm not my player. I'm not my character, and I don't have that charisma. And I'm like, I know that. But here's the thing. If we're role-playing and I'm trying to decide whether or not I believe what you're saying, then you need to convince me like you would normally that this is the way to go. And then I would not roll any die. I wouldn't roll dice. I basically would decide what happens at that point. And Skullforge is the same way. Skullforge is basically when you go in to have a conversation with somebody, what you say is what happens. So you can't rely on a die roll to save you when you screw up. If you want to convince that guy to give you whatever, then you got to convince that guy. You can't just rely on some die roll to give it to you. So there's no cheating in this. You need to do what you got to do. And I think maybe that might be a little too much. Yeah, and I that's the way to go, especially Demon Souls, Dark Souls. I feel like it gives more agency to the player. You decide, and if you screw up, then it's on you, 100%. It's not on the game. The game didn't make you choose that. It wasn't a bad roll that gave it to you. It was you that made that choice, and therefore, those are the consequences that you're going to get when you make those choices. And I think that players should be able to deal with that. If you decided to go in and kill a bunch of people, then, you got the consequences of killing a bunch of people. You did this, and therefore you are responsible for what happens. So, it's easy to fall into those traps. But, one thing I will say is Skullforge doesn't kick you in that way because Desi is a good character. She's good. Like, her alignment is good. Which means that, yes, you can decide to do a lot of things. But it never lets you go in and destroy the village. Like, you don't go in and just kill everybody. That option is never there because she's not a bad person. And you're playing as Desi, so, you're not some random character that you just made. And so you are Desi, and therefore Desi doesn't do stuff like that, so Desi's not going to kill, she's not going to go in and kill the village. But there's one part where, and I think this is going to be in the demo. I haven't decided whether I'm going to put it in or not, but I think this part's going to be in the demo. And there's a part where a guy kills his wife. And, there's a whole lot of stuff, and I don't want to spoil, like, all the things that goes into this. But at some point, he's like, I'm going to commit suicide. And you, as a player, can decide or try to talk him down. Like, hey man, don't do this. Like, don't do it. Or you can be like, look, dude, you got to suffer your own consequences. You did this. This is something that you have to face. And if he does that, then he'll jump off the cliff and kill himself. It's the player that ultimately chooses, or how the player interacts with the guy will determine what happens to him. And then, of course, once he's dead, he's gone forever. So, like, Skullforge, if the dude dies, he's gone forever. He's never coming back. Like, he's dead. He's gone. You know, and every plot and every story thing and everything that was involved with that dude now has alternate paths because that dude is dead. So, you know, now it's got to do something else because he's gone. If that dude was part of another quest somewhere, or he could have given you some information, well, then he's gone now, so he can't give you that information. And so, you know, you have to be careful about how you go into a situation and what you're trying to accomplish. So my thing is, especially in Skullforge, my advice to players is save and save often. But if you played any RPG, that should be your number one, you know, thought as soon as you get started. But you know, the Shadows of the Lost doesn't really get into it that way, so you know you don't have to deal with that kind of stuff. It's made to be able to get in, play it, and put it down, and you know move on with life. And it's got its own story and stuff, and you know all that stuff. But you know there isn't as much player agency in this as say Skullforge, where you have a lot more, and you know you're always trying to decide, well, what's the better course of action. And I would hope, and I want players to actually sit down and talk about it. You know, like, okay, I went in and I did this thing. Is there another way that I could have done it? You know, or how did you do it? Oh, I did it this way. You know, and I think players having that back and forth, you know, is good. And you want people talking about it. You know, everybody should be able to compare how they went about those things. Some people are going to go the more straight way. Some people take the roundabout way, you know, to get there. But, you know, that's how it is. And I think that's what could make the game fun. I think the problem is, like with a lot of games that allow you to make those kind of choices, is that they allow you to trap yourself and they don't give you an out. So when you trap yourself, you're like, I totally screwed up. And now my game is totally screwed. And I will never be able to get that thing again. And so it's one of the things that I always have this kind of anxiety when I get a game that allows you to kind of choose. But in the case of Skullforge, yes, there are some things that if you don't do it a certain way, then it's gone forever. But at the same time, there's a lot of like roundabout ways to get to that point over there. So you're trying to get over there, but there are a lot of roundabout ways to get there. But you still get there. So, you know, you don't have to worry about too much of, oh my God, I didn't do something. And now I'm screwed. You know, so don't worry about that. So when you get around to playing Skullforge, don't worry about it. You know, we try to put a lot of like ways to get out of situations so that you never get trapped. You know, so you can play the game the way you want. And you don't have to worry about getting stuck or trapped or anything like that. Like we're not going to trap you in something. Because as it is in real life, there are always other ways to do things. You know, you don't always have to have one way. There may be 4 or 5 to get to the same point. So yeah, you know, it's one of those things. It's just something I think about. Sorry about going off on on some game dev thing, philosophy. Sorry about that. Yeah, I love that stuff. Yeah, I love getting into the philosophy of it. I mean, you know, making games it's all about philosophy. Or should I say, psychology. You know, you're always, you know, trying to get the player to do something. You know, and so you know you're trying to get that feeling or that thought, or trying to make them feel a certain way, do a certain thing. And I mentioned this before in a previous stream, but you know, it's kind of like that. Yeah, you know, it's. I think Skullforge will be really unique in how it does its thing. And I hope people like it. But if they don't, then, I'm sorry. I am. I'm sorry. My goal is not to have you waste your time and your money. I'm sorry. But, I do want people to experience the game in a really unique way. And so, that's how it was built. That's how I designed it. And so I just hope that people can appreciate that. And maybe they can't. Maybe in the end, people go, you know what, dude, I hated that game because, I tried to save the guy and I couldn't, and he ended up dying, and I was pissed, and and I'm sorry about that, But just keep in mind that there are no behind the scenes roles on anything. So if you decide to do something, then each thing that you do has consequences. And those consequences can be beneficial, and those consequences can be neutral, and they can also be totally detrimental. So, you don't know how things are going to go, but, you just do what you got to do. No, I actually haven't. I don't even know who Josh Sawyer is, but I'll look him up. Story stuff is interesting. I'm gonna be curious to see when people play Shadows of the Lost and you get to, there are a couple of twist points, and I'm just curious what people are gonna think about that. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I'll check them out. Yeah, I'll check them out. Love that stuff. I'll add them to my dev list of things to check out. I'm always looking for new ideas and looking to see how people look at how to interact with the player, because interacting with the player is the fun part of playing D&D, is the fun part of making video games. That's why we make video games, right? That's why you guys play them, right? At least I hope that's why you play them. Yeah, it's it's cool. I'm all down for that. It's cool because when you look at how people choose to allow people to interact with their game, it's always interesting. Like, a lot of people, they have different ways of doing things, and so I like seeing how people do it. It's the craft of making games. It's not just making games, because anybody can try to make a game. But I feel like there's a craft. Like there's a way to do it, and it's like a specialized craft, and you gain the skills so you can do the things that you want to do. Those things are fun. It's cool. It's awesome. And I hope the players, when they get into it, they go, "That was cool." If a player walks out and says, like, if the end of the game they go, "You know what, that was cool," then I consider it a win for me. That's a win. I know indies, like, we have a lot of trouble trying to get people to really pay attention to our stuff. It's always an issue with indie things. And I wish we didn't. I wish people were just more open to trying stuff. But but from the perspective of the player, I also understand that you're just inundated with, ads and stuff. Like, there's just stuff. At some point, you just got to tune things out and then go, you know what, I'm not going to pay attention to anything unless it fits my wheelhouse. If it doesn't, my brain instantly skips it and it moves on to something else. And so, it's tough. And so, you just gotta make do with what you got, and I just hope people give it a try and see what they think. I assume that a lot of people have tried the demo. At least some of the people that are here have tried it and actually see what they think. I admit that the demo kind of ends abruptly, and that's mainly because it's not finished. So you're kind of playing a work in progress. But I think the main core systems of the game are in there, so you can play it and stuff. And you can see its JRPG roots at some point, but you can also see its, I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, how would you describe that? Like, it's mainly just story stuff. Like, it's a lot of story stuff, and there's the JRPG part, where you're fighting and it's got the battle music and you're doing all that stuff. I don't know. What do people think about that? I don't know. It's fun though. I mean, it's fun, putting that together. Like marrying the two ideas of your JRPG sensibilities and then your kind of adventure game sensibilities, and then marrying those two ideas together. When I was putting this together, I searched for cyberpunk games, and I was looking for something that was kind of like what we were doing, and I never found anything. I looked and I looked and I looked and I looked at a ton of stuff, and I looked and looked. I never found anything. If somebody has something or found something that's kind of like it, I'd be interested to see. But I never found anything, and so I thought, crap! All these years, all these games, nobody's ever done anything like this. But here we are, and so I hope that people at least have an open mind about how it is, because it's not your typical 2D JRPG type game. But then again, it's not your typical LucasArts Sierra adventure game either. So it's kind of like this mix of the two. So I hope that people can appreciate that. But I don't know. We'll see. I had a lot of fun making it though. Like, the first time I got the battle system up, I mean, I must have like danced around the house for like 30 minutes, just like, oh my god, I did it, oh my god. I was so happy. First time I did the opening cutscene, I got it finished. Oh my god, like it was late. It was like midnight or something, maybe a little after midnight, and I got it finished and I put it all together and I watched it all the way through for the first time, and I was like, oh my god, it's so cool. Oh my god, I was so happy. Oh my god, I can't even describe like that feeling. When you do it and it's done and you're looking at the finished product, you go, oh my god, I did it. Like, it's me. I did it. Just creating that was amazing. I was so happy. And, it's also like when I finished, when I finished Blood City, the Black Petal. I don't know if any of you guys have read that, but it's the book that we did for Blood City. Blood City is, let me digress just a little bit. Blood City is the world that I've crafted for almost all of our games and books and stuff. And the general idea, as I said in a different stream, is that orcs and goblins and trolls and gnomes and elves and humans and stuff are all living together in this melting pot of the world. And the general theme is they never left. So in history, Tolkien history, they went off to wherever, and the only people left were humans, and so the world carried on with just humans in it. In this case, they didn't leave. Everybody's all together, and so the world carried on with, orcs and trolls and goblins and humans and elves and dwarves, and they're all living together. And during that time, magic went away. It's gone. Like, it just gets forgotten, and it's gone now. And so it's technology and normal stuff, but when you look outside, your next door neighbor, is an elf. You know what I mean? So and they don't think anything about it. It's because they've been around forever, and so you just deal with that. And so we built the Blood City world to cover that. And even, strangely enough, even Skullforge takes place in the Blood City world in its early days. So this is the medieval version of the world. And the lore of the whole world, the whole system is, in the beginning, during Desi's time, there was the world as we knew it. As it was. This is before dinosaurs, this is before whatever, the earth as it was, way back. But at some point there's a cataclysm and the world gets wiped and everybody's dead and everything's gone, and basically the world has to start over. And when the world starts over, that's where you get your dinosaurs and your stuff, and all that stuff. And then they get wiped out and then things carry on. But all those recessive genes that were from way back come back, and now we've got the world that grew up with the medieval thing with all of the orcs and goblins and stuff. And Blood City is that world. And so if you read the Black Petal, then that takes place in that world with those things. And it's an interesting look at how the universe and how the world changes over time. I mean, scientifically, like how things change. You get an extinction event, things go extinct, and then you get kind of a rebuilding of life as it rebuilds itself after whatever that extinction event was. And sometimes those genes come back and sometimes they don't, but that's the cycle of life, right? And that's just how it goes. And so I thought that it'd be a really interesting premise to take a look at what happened if those guys never left. What would our world be like? Well, I mean, I figured it would look like just like it does now. I mean, what would change any of that? You still would have slavery. You'd still have bigots. You'd still have your social problems that you would have normally. You still have your kings and queens and all that stuff. Would any of that stuff change? No. All that stuff would happen just like it does normally. Because people are people, and those things would happen, and that's just how it goes. And so it's interesting to look at the world and life as things go on. And so the year in this case is like 2144. And, so we're, 120 years in the future. And so, we're, a lot of things have happened since then. They've had their own wars, their own stuff, and their own things going on. And so you're looking at the world through the lens of one particular guy, and as he is looking at things. Now, one other thing that I don't really get into is anybody who knows me knows that my handle is Eternal Darkness. But Eternal Darkness is actually a character of mine. He's actually a superhero guy, and that's the superhero guy of the Blood City universe. And he in his universe, he is this mythic figure. He swoops in, takes care of business, and gets out. But he's an extremely violent dude. He's like the Punisher, kind of, where he jumps in, he just kills a bunch of folks, and then gets out. And that's his whole thing. But when you find out more about him, so if you read, so the Black Petal is about him. It's about Eternal Darkness and kind of what he's dealing with. Like, you get to see it from his perspective because, I mean, it's his story. So, you get to see things from his perspective, not from others. But in this game, Shadows of the Lost, there will be some mentioning of Eternal Darkness. I mean, he's a big figure, so you will see like some little news snippet things about Eternal Darkness. And Eternal Darkness is fun to write because he's this extremely flawed individual who thinks that he's doing the right thing. especially against corporate greed and corporate stuff, because corporations in the Blood City world are the power. In Cyberpunk, and let's talk a little bit about Cyberpunk in general. I feel like there are two ways to look at Cyberpunk. You've got one way, which is like 2077 Cyberpunk. Like you guys are looking forward to that. Like they're going with more of the punk side. You're dealing with street gangs. You're dealing with people on the kind of bottom end of society. You got people who are trying to like make a living and it looks at the day to day. Like I used to play the Shadowrun, no, not Shadowrun, the Cyberpunk game system. And if you haven't played the Shadowrun game system, I recommend it. It is awesome, but gunplay is deadly. The moment you shoot somebody, it's over with. Like that game does not, pull any punches on that. But it more looks at the punk side. Like we're looking at the people who don't have any money, people who are poor or just trying to scrape out a living, and they're just trying to get from point A to point B. And I think that's one version of Cyberpunk. Then you've got the other side of Cyberpunk where the corporations rule. And you're looking at it from the lens of somebody who is either being oppressed by the corporations or they're realizing that the corporations have too much power and they're trying to push their influence on things. And the world is essentially corrupt, not because people don't want to do the right thing, but because the corporations rule, and therefore because they rule, they can do whatever they want, and they do, and there's no repercussions for that. Like they don't have to worry about going to jail and all that stuff because they are ultimately the power even above governments. And you've got these places where you diverge, and so you've got the punk side, and then you've got more of the urban side, and or the corporate side. And so generally in my version of Cyberpunk, I almost always deal with more of the corporate side and that stuff. I like that part more than the punk. I'm down in the gutter. We're down in that area dealing with what those people are dealing with. And that can be fun. But that's how I feel like I separate myself from Cyberpunk and the way he does his stuff. And because I feel like they should have their niche and that's theirs. Mine is we're going on the corporate side. So we're looking at corporate influence. We're looking at how it affects people's day-to-day lives. We're looking at how people deal with other problems that are related to that. And of course, there's a certain level of gangsters and gangs and stuff, going on too. But generally, the characters that I choose for this are usually not people down in the dirt. So they're people who are obviously trying to scratch out a living, but they're not down in the dirt. And I don't know if everybody's gonna like that, but I enjoy writing about it, and I recommend just checking out the Black Petal if you're into hero stories. I don't know how else to describe it. It's more of a superhero story, but there's a mystery to it, and it's like a mystery thing with a really dark ending. But I think the ending of it makes a lot of sense when you put it all together. But it has its magic and stuff, and there is magic. But this game, Shadows of Lost, doesn't deal with the magic part. We're not dealing with that part of it. Anyway, sorry, I went off on a tangent again. I'm sorry. Did anybody have any questions? I noticed that we have more people in here, so thanks for joining. I appreciate it. Like and subscribe. Yeah. If you like what we're doing, go ahead and drop us a like and subscribe to the channel and that kind of thing. You know, I don't push it that much, but you know, if you like what we're doing, I really appreciate it. You know, like I really appreciate people. You know, I realize people's time is precious, and so the fact that you're willing to give me and us, you know, some of your time, I really appreciate it. So thanks a lot. Anyway, any questions or comments or anything? Sorry, I kind of got on a tangent. I'm sorry. No? Okay. Well, so yeah, you know, the thing is, like, I was thinking about, you know, overall story things, because in the next build of Shadows, it's mainly going to be mostly story things. I know that there's some people who are that weren't here in the beginning part of this whole stream. The next build will have like some fixes to mostly combat. That's the thing I focused on a lot. But what you're going to see mainly is story continuation and stuff. Mainly because I want to get through the first two parts of the story. Because the demo, in its final form, will only cover 2 of 5 chapters. So there are 5 chapters total. The demo is only going to cover 2 of them. I figure that's good enough to get your lips wet and want to know more. You know, like what happened in the story, what happens to John, you know, how he continues his journey on from there. Like I feel like it's enough to give you an idea of kind of where we're going. The first part is chapter 1 doesn't get too much into the adventure game stuff. It's mainly you're just watching John deal with his PTSD. Like it's pretty obvious he's dealing with some form of PTSD, and you know he's just trying to get through what he's doing, and you know he's struggling a bit, and I hope that makes him a more interesting character. You know, like he doesn't have everything just given to him. He's gonna have to work for it, and he's got his own problems. I had decided in the beginning, like I wasn't gonna make him this mute guy who just kind of, and so he talks a lot, you know, and you're always in his head, you know, and so you're always getting what he's thinking at the time, and I think that makes him a really interesting character. And then, of course, there are other characters that you're going to meet along the way. And, of course, as you open Pandora's box, I mean, obviously, you got to know he's got to open Pandora's box. It wouldn't be a story without it. So, you know, he's going to open the box. So what happens when he opens up Pandora's box? Chapter 2 is going to get into the beginning of what's going to happen once he opens up Pandora's box. And I think that's going to make things a lot more interesting for the player and for John too. Like, you know, I like to tell my wife that, you know, he gets to the point where he realizes that they're all better off dead. You know what I mean? Like I just love that thought. Like, you know, it's that revelation that, you know, maybe instead of trying to fix it, like instead of actually trying to, you know, get down and try to handle it, you know, one way, it's better to just clear the slate and start over. You know, it's so corrupt at the core that it's better to just throw it out and start over. And so, you know, that's kind of the revelation that he gets into. And I think that's going to be an interesting revelation for the player. Now, how people are going to take that, I have no idea. But I hope people, you know, like where that goes. I mean, it's been interesting to write, but I hope that people like where it goes. I think it's going to go in a direction that people aren't expecting it to. And I don't want to say too much, but it's difficult to stop talking about it because I really want to talk about it. But, you know, I think it's going to go in a direction that the player is just not gonna see. And even though I think it's gonna go in a direction that you probably didn't see coming. I think ultimately, even if that's the case, that the player can still feel like that made sense. Like, it's it's something that makes sense. Like you can totally understand how it got to that point. Like if you think about it, and you think about what people do in human behavior and psychology, you think, oh yeah, I can totally see that happening, even if it's not what you thought was going to happen. I don't know. Maybe some people figure it out early and be like, oh yeah, I totally saw that coming. But I didn't write it as a curveball on purpose. Let me just say that. Like it wasn't like something I consciously went, ha! I'm gonna write this curveball, like right here. Like I'm just gonna throw it in there. I didn't do it like that. It kind of worked out that way organically. And whenever I'm discussing plot, like my wife could probably tell you, like I sit around and I'm like, okay, so if you were in that situation and you were there, what would you do in that situation? Like, what are some options that you could choose to get there? And that's how I basically put plots together. Like, if I was there and I was in that situation, what would I do? Like, what could you do? And so, I always ask that question. And Skullforge, its story and plot and stuff, is all built around that idea that I could have taken point A, or I could have taken point B, or I could have taken point C. And what happens when you take either one of those paths? And that path leads to this outcome or this way. And that path leads to that way. Yeah, Hey, sometimes you just need somebody to bounce some ideas off of. But, I tend to write stories from the perspective of the character. It's always like I tend to think about it like the player's talking to me about stuff, and I'm asking questions. The player says, "Oh yeah," or so the character says, "Yeah, I was standing on top of this cliff and I was looking down at something. I asked, well, what'd you do next? Like, what happened?" And then they're like, "Oh yeah, well, this is what I did. Like, I did this and this and this." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay, that's kind of cool." And so I usually write stories that way. The Skullforge story, like if you get around to reading that, I recommend reading the Skullforge story before you play the game. Because I think Desi, as a character, shines more in that series. At least you can see her motivations and kind of where she's going. And I think taking that and applying that to the game is cool as hell. Like applying that thought process to the game is really cool. It's fun, it's interesting, it's like that thing that it's like I can totally put that into game terms and build systems around that. And the other thing that tends to be a problem with games is that you get into these gamey situations where the game takes liberties on realism in order to provide the game part. And there's no escape from that because games are games, right? And so, games are always gonna toe that line. But I always try to tone down the gamey stuff, like not get too caught up in the gamey part, or make the gamey part feel more natural, so that when you're doing stuff, you can be like, okay, yeah, I can do that. Now that's not quite always the case, like so for example. And I mentioned this before, but like when you get to Shadows of the Lost and you go into the arena or the fight club and they don't allow you to kill people, and yet your main guy is using an assault rifle, you know what I mean? Like,
Okay, so it's gamey. It's the gamey part. But I didn't want to say, well, when you go into the arena, you can only use your fist. Like it's Fight Club. You're just punching stuff. I didn't want to do that because what's the point of going to get gear and stuff if ultimately you can't use it? So instead of trying to rewrite everything, I just decided to just let the player use whatever they have on them. And yes, it's unrealistic that you go in and shoot the dude with a, assault rifle for 50 points of damage. It's unrealistic, but you know what? Yeah, it's a game. Yeah, it's okay. But in other places, I don't fall into the gaming part. I try to balance the gaming part. And Skullforge tries to balance the gaming part a lot more. And matter of fact, Skullforge probably does a better job of balancing the gamey stuff, mainly because it's action, so it's a lot easier to say, well, this thing can't happen because of whatever, and whereas this game is more turn-based and there's just a lot of that kind of stuff, and so because of that, I feel like I can't. It's not right to do things a certain way. So you want people to have fun. I mean, you want them to have fun. Like I said, like I've said many times, you want people to have fun. And so even if it's just a little bit unrealistic, it's okay. They'll live and they'll be happy. But Skullforge isn't like that. It's a lot more grounded on that. Yes, she goes around chopping people and stuff, but that's the way it goes. Things die. Oh, one other thing. Talking about gamey stuff. When I was first designing Skullforge, I had planned that when you go into an area, there's some enemies there, and so you fight them and stuff, and you kill them. And I said earlier that when you kill things, they die, like they're dead forever, they don't come back. And so I went into this zone and I killed everything, and I was feeling pretty good. I'm like, yeah, I killed everything. Yeah, took over the place. And then I left and I came back and it was empty. It's empty. Like everything was dead. I mean, there's birds flying around and stuff, and so there's like life, but everything's dead. Like there's nothing to fight. Like you killed everything. It's all dead. And so I thought, okay, yeah, this can't happen. I mean, I gotta. It's a one and done. For this is just not gonna happen. So I went ahead and wrote a respawn system so that things respawn. But it was funny, like the realization when I entered the zone and I went, everything's dead. Like there's nothing to fight. I don't know. It was a. That point that I realized, okay, things have to respawn, right? But it takes a while for things to respawn, but they do respawn. But it just takes a while for it to happen. So yeah, you will get some points where you go into the zone, you kill everything, you're like, ha 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 ha. But if you leave the zone and come back, like things are still dead. They don't just instantly leave the zone, come back, and everything comes back. There's none of that. There's a time limit for when things respawn. So you may leave the zone, come back, run around. I mean, I feel like you earned it. You killed everything, you earned it. You earned some peace. So now you can do all your searching around and checking stuff and looking at all the things and stuff. And you can explore and stuff without like dudes chasing you and killing you. You earned it. So they're all dead. But at some point they do respawn, and you can get back into killing them again or whatever. And that way you have things to do to get EXP and stuff. It's one of those things about game development that sometimes things sound good in your head. Yeah, it's they don't. The thing is I think when you're playing with ideas and they're in your head, you're going, yeah, I'm gonna do it like this, and it's gonna be fun. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. And then you implement that. You go through all the trouble and you implement it in your game, and you're like, yeah, I got it in there. It works. And then you play it and you go, in practice, this thing sucks. Oh my God. Yeah. Game development, that's how it is. And so, a lot of times you have these good ideas, or you're talking to somebody and you're bouncing ideas off of each other. And somebody says, oh, wouldn't it be cool if you did something? And you go, yeah, dude, that's awesome. That would be so amazing. And you go through the trouble and you put it in, and then you go, okay, maybe that sucks. Like, that really sucks, dude. It happens a lot. I think for Skullforge specifically, I feel like I've cut a lot of things, not added. Like I said, I didn't add anything. Nothing's been added. But there have been quite a few things that have been cut. Because when I put it into the game and I started playing, I realized that this thing just didn't have fun. Like, it equates to the game biting you, where the game is putting some kind of pressure on you or something, and so it's like I don't want that, So there are lots of things that I put in that I ended up getting rid of because it just wasn't going to work in practice. And on paper, amazing, it was amazing, but in practice, no, it was not good. Oh man, yeah. It's fun. It's fun. One day it would be interesting to. I mean, I wish I would have recorded some of the old things that I've done, so that I can show what it was like before we got to this point. So you can see like the evolution of systems. So you can see like what it was when we started, and then how it evolved to what we have in the end. Because sometimes like the beginning part is like, yeah, this is great. Like, okay, so like in Shadows of Lost, let's take a point there. So in the beginning, when combat started, everybody starts at the end, and then it would just go across. Everybody's speed comes into play, and it goes across. But and this idea works, but there's one little problem, and that fights will always be exactly the same. Everybody goes at the exact same time. You will always beat the enemy in something. They'll always beat you in some things. Like it always works out in the same way. And that predictability was something that originally I was like, okay, it's no problem. But as time went on, it started to bother the hell out of me. So what I did was I went and added a random part to the beginning of combat. And a random part in certain parts of combat so that it changes things up. So you don't know what is going to happen at all times. And so there's a little bit of randomness to it, where people start on the grid when you first start the fight, where they end up after they've done their turn, that kind of stuff. And it adds something to the randomness of it and the unpredictability of it. And I think that is important, because otherwise I feel like that it becomes this real predictable thing. And in the beginning it's fine. But after you've done the thing over and over and over and over and over, you fought that enemy like over and over and over, you start to know exactly how they're gonna function. And that is just not fun. So I started putting in these random parts so that it just feels fresh. Like you never know how the fight is going to end up, because you don't know how they're going to react, or like random abilities, like you don't know what ability they're going to choose, you don't know how fast they're going to be, you don't know where they're going to start off on the grid, you don't know any of those things, and that adds to more of the strategic part of the whole combat system. And so I think that's one of those cool things that, it just makes things a lot more interesting. When things are set, like it's like this, like that, like this, like that, it's boring. And maybe in the beginning that familiarity is good, but without some kind of something to drive something that changes your expectations, it just becomes the work. It becomes a thing that you do, and then you do the next thing, and then you do the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, and it's just work at that point. There's nothing added for spice. There's nothing added that's interesting. It's just that thing that you do, and everything works out exactly like you expect it to. And I just think that is good sometimes. But if you're going to be doing combat and you're doing it over and over and over and over again, you don't want that predictability. You want a little bit of random, because you don't know what's going to happen from one fight to the next, and that's what makes it interesting. It's one of the reasons why I think Skullforge, the action combat is probably why I went with action to begin with, because there's a certain level of player agency there. Like, you decide what move you're going to use, you decide how you're going to position yourself. There's a certain randomness to how enemies react to you, and so combat is going to be different. And completely different every time you do it, and so you always have that unpredictability when you're getting into a fight, and that's fresh. And some people can't deal with the action part of it, and I get that, but that's I think that it adds a certain freshness to it. Anyway, I just realized that we've been going for 2.5 hours. I am going to wrap this up. I'm sorry for keeping you guys this long, and I appreciate people who stayed to the end. Oh my God, it's awesome. It's great. And so I'm going to probably do these like once a week, like just to kind of touch on what we've done the previous week, and kind of how systems are working, and get some feedback. So people who've played the demo will get a chance to kind of throw some feedback at me, and I'll be able to write them down in my little notebook, and then I can go through and adjust things as I need to adjust. Because ultimately, again, we are trying to make a game that's fun for the player, and so we want the players to be enjoying themselves. And if they're not enjoying themselves, then we failed somewhere. So I want to make sure that we can do that. And so getting feedback and getting people to talk about it helps me, because I'm only looking at it from my perspective, and I know how it works. I know how the code works at the bottom and inside and out, but you guys don't. And so therefore, I want to get that perspective. So drop me a message on Twitter or whatever, and just let me know. Let me know what you think, and we'll try to do the best that we can with what we got. And, I just hope you guys are enjoying yourself. So anyway, appreciate everybody who stuck around to the end. Thanks a lot. You guys are awesome. If you want to do us a solid, go ahead and subscribe, become a follower on Twitch. And this will help us in the long run. Anyway, I don't want to hold you guys up. Thanks a lot for joining. You guys have a great day, and I appreciate it. No, really, I really appreciate everybody sticking around for the whole time. And I hope you guys have a great day. And we'll see you guys next time. Oh, try the demo. If you haven't tried it, try the demo. And a new build will be out probably tonight at some point. And so, I hope you guys like the changes that we made. And next week will be all... Yeah, man. Dude, drop by anytime, man. Send me a note or something. Like, let's chat. Yeah, let's chat. So, you guys have a great one. And we'll see you guys next time. So, take care. Peace out.